Hello students, this is the first art class of this academic year and we are going to start with the pencil shading. So we'll have a series of videos on shading various types of objects which we find around us, and it will teach you how to use your pencil as well as look at objects and try to find out how they can be done with pencils. So for this we'll be using number of pencils. So first I'll start with this pencil. This is a mechanical pencil or a clutch pencil. It's a 0.5 clutch and it has got a 2B lead inside it, so it can be considered as a 2B pencil. And the second pencil that we will be using is a 6B pencil. It's a Staedtler 6B pencil. All right. So first we are going to start with one of the primary shapes that we find around ourselves, especially in the kitchen, and it's actually an apple and a pear. So first and foremostly I'll start the drawing, so just stay tuned. So I'll start with a basic shape, which is a circle, which is one of the basic shape of any type of fruit that we find around us. After that we'll just try to create the exact shape of the apple. Now there is a reason why I am drawing this thing in a very light way, so that when we are shading it doesn't have a very good edge which is demarcated from the background. So for that you need to draw very lightly. This is one of the important most important lesson, that we draw things very lightly. It gives us control of our pencil, and we do try drawing it by holding the pencil a little bit away from the tip. It gives us more control. And don't press this side of your palm too hard on the paper, or else you won't be moving very fluidly. All right, so let's consider this is our apple. This is the sprout portion, and there's a little bit of sprout. All right, we don't draw anything more than this as our first draft drawing, because we'll just directly jump into the shading portion, where we just hold various types of sides of this apple into directions and make them flow inside and outside, trying to find out where the light can be put. So I'll take my light on my left side and I'll take my depth on the right side. So if for any type of curvilinear surfaces, like which are like round, the dark always falls on the 3/4 zone, as well as the light falls on the 3/4 zone. Let's just consider the light to be falling from this side. Okay, so if that is the side of our light, this area will be the lit up portion for the apple, and exactly opposite to this, on the lower side, this portion will be the most dark portion. All right, so let's start the process. What I'm giving is primary strokes. The intensity of the stroke is not high, and all these strokes are inclined at a 45-degree angle. But as I go down, can you see that the angle of my stroke just changed? It is sort of following the perimeter of the object form. At the same time, I'll also create a contouring right towards the center of this apple where the sprout is forming. So this side is gonna have the strokes angled to the top direction, and as it comes out it will have a little bit of slant till it mixes with the strokes that's going outside. I'll just put a little bit of dark inside for me to understand it, but that's not important right now because we are working on a layer 1. And right now we are not going to press our pencil too much so that it will create a very deep mark. Now as we come to the center of this top side, we are going to have an inclination perpendicular. So as we come down here, it will be a straight direction of our stroke. Make sure when you're working on your layer 1, do not press your pencil too much so that it will be creating a very deep, heavy mark, because we are not working on our second or third layer of the work. I'm just going to leave a little bit of white space around this corner. And as we go to the right side, our stroke slanting just changed to a direction just opposite to what we were doing on the left side, because the carve of the apple is going on this way and on this side it's this way. Do take up a lot of time when you're doing these strokes and doing this shading, because if you try to hurry up and finish it as fast as you can, then it will just mess up very, very fast and it will not come out as nicely as it can be. This is a sort of 75-degree stroke, but we'll also use a slanting 60-degree stroke. And as we come down, there will be a 45-degree stroke. So there are like 3 angular strokes, starting with a 75, a 90 on the top side, like here. Like in this entire zone, it will be a 90-degree stroke. Then comes 75, then comes 60, and then finally comes 45. Now, as we have come down and we are sort of covering a large area with a single type of tone, the best thing is to have a little longer strokes. First and foremostly, when we are working here, we can definitely put a 45-degree angle stroke all over, just leaving out the whites portion that I have, like the highlight portion, which I marked here. So leaving that place, we can definitely put a 45-degree angle strokes overall as my underlayer. And then after that, what we can do is like, we can just carve out a stroke like this. And follow the pattern of the apple, the volume of the apple rather. Let's start with this side as well. So right now we have covered the entire apple with a single set of strokes, which is moving this way, this way. There's a lot of haphazard ways of stroking with your pencil. But as we work towards our final layers, like the second layer, which I've already started, we will have to create a certain kind of uniformity while we are shading it. So this is my second layer of strokes. Like this side I gave the strokes towards this direction, but right now what I'm going to do is like I'm going to put a stroke layer on this direction, because that's how the contour is moving because of the light that is fallen on it. A 45-degree angle stroke is very useful in terms of shading, and if you are going to give it like patiently, that is, otherwise it doesn't help that much. So I've covered the lower portion with a stroke layer. So right now after this stage, it doesn't look much of the apple right now, but right after we put the dark, it will sort of come out. So I'll start with the dark. I'll start from here. So right now, even for the dark section, I'm just using my 2B pencil, nothing more. But just keep a very keen eye to the degree of my stroke, the angle of it, that is. These angles will make sure whether your apple looks real or not. And do try to give very small strokes. To cover a little portion of the sprout, because it's coming out from the dark area to the light area on the top. So the lower portion will be sort of hidden in a sort of shade of the apple, the crevice of the apple rather. I hope you have been seeing this very carefully, because there's one thing I will like to point out, that when I'm shading this, I'm also very careful that I don't, put my hand on top of my shaded area, because that will smudge whatever work that I have done till now. And smudging with fingers or any part of the hand is not very nice, because that's like sort of a shortcut. We don't do that. Just gonna put a little bit of dark on this side. Just gonna bring this sprout up a bit. when you're putting dark on one side, do follow a certain rule, that is never touch the extreme line of the side of the dark. So like the extreme line would have been this for me, and I'll definitely try to keep some light on that edge, because if I don't, it will not look very real. I'm gonna press my pencil a little bit on the surface. And I'll also give it a tone of darkness on this side. This is not a 6B mark, so it's not going to be extremely dark, but it will sort of fulfill my intention right now, because I'm not going to put a lot of contrast to this work. So the lower portion of the apple is sort of shaded right now. And I'm going to ease out this dark that I have put on this lower side as I go up. Easing out of dark is very, very important. If you don't do it, it will look very, ragged, and it will not look nice. So if you are putting somewhere dark, if it's like accidental, try to ease out the dark. If you ease out, it will not look that bad. I have a complete paper white left out in one portion only, that is on the left side, and a little bit around here. This I will not keep very white and vivid, but I'll try to use what do you say? It's sort of half tone. So we can always keep a half tone somewhere where we don't want it to be lit up that well. Like this is a half tone that I'm putting right now, because we don't want this portion to be like extremely high and visible. And if there are like sedimentation on top of your work, don't try to like wipe them off with your hands or anything else, just blow them out. In that way you will not have to keep any, like, you don't have to put any impression on the work. At the same time your work will be like fresh. Freshness is very important. Just going to put a little bit of dark here. I've more or less completed my 2B work. So I'm just going to shift into my 6B work. A little bit more depth on this lower side, and I'm sort of done. So you can understand it takes a lot of time to shade something properly, and if you don't give time, even like after practicing for such a long time, I still take so much time to do a pencil shading. So you can understand, like, if you want to do this type of work, this much detailed work which looks very nice, you will also have to give more time. This is my best suggestion. Like, if you are doing a pencil shading and if you want to look like a professional and like an artist, you will have to make sure that you are giving it enough time. If you are like having problems sitting in one go and completing it like in one shot, then I guess it's better if you just sit for it like 5 minutes from time to time and divide your work throughout an entire week maybe, and finish it up like in 1 week, 2 weeks, who knows. If you do that, then at least I can promise you that your work will look excellent. So this is my final work. I've been saying final work for a long time, I guess, a few times already. So I'm just going to start with my 6B work. So this is my 6B pencil. It's a Stedler one. Pretty awesome pencil as it is. Not much work is there for this pencil to work. But yes, when you're working with a 6B pencil, it's not mandatory that you have to work in strokes. You can just fill out places with circular strokes. So, but make sure that it doesn't show at all. Like when I'm doing it, I'm not doing it in places where it shows the circular strokes, because that is a separate lesson altogether, where we can use a circular stroke or any other type of strokes apart from this straight strokes. That's a different style of work. But in this thing also, in order to completely achieve a realistic outcome, in some places we just make sure that we are using a circular stroke, but just hide it well enough within the boundaries of the other one, the straight ones. So I'm also going to draw the shadow a bit. And this time I'm just going to press my pencil as hard as possible, just keeping a small thin line on the outer edge of my apple. Now this time I'm just using my 6B, not my clutch. And in some places you can definitely merge it with the apple because it will look better if you do. That gives a realistic feel. There's also a certain sense of direction to it, and it's like flowing outside because the light is here, so the shadow will be like behind and a little bit on the sides. So I'm just going to do it exactly how it should be. And definitely do always remember to block off some areas and make the background go into your object and then come out, because that just makes it more real, because we cannot see everything distinctly when we are looking at things. That what a camera does, but not human eye. But especially because this apple is kept on a surface which is like a horizontal surface, we are mostly going to use a horizontal stroke. In the apple we have never used any sort of horizontal strokes, but in the ground, just to differentiate the surfaces, we are just going to use a horizontal strokes. Just more comfortable, and it conveys the object more. As we move out of the object from where we have drawn the object, we are just going to make sure that our strokes become lighter. So if you're having a little bit of problem doing this with a 6B pencil, I think you should shift to a 2B or a 4B, and then finally go for a 2B when you are doing the outskirts of it, which I'm going to do as well, because it requires a little bit of soft touch when it is gonna end, the shadow is gonna end. Also, the form of the shadow becomes very rigid and very distinct as it's going to meet with your apple, but as it moves out from the object, its edge will get a little blurry. So do make sure to give a very low tone on the edge of the shadow and diffuse it as it goes out. And here we are. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Do try this at home, all right, and send me your works. Bye.